Some days unfold with an ease that feels almost effortless, as if attention moves in a clear channel and energy flows without friction. Other days feel dense and tangled, even when there is a genuine attempt to redirect thoughts towards something brighter, and this contrast is not random or a matter of luck. There is a way to understand and influence that shift using the language of physiology and field effects, where coherent heart-brain rhythms and focused perception affect how reality is experienced. High coherence is not a mood to chase or a mask to wear. It is a measurable pattern in the body's rhythms when breathing, emotion, and attention begin to synchronize. Institutions studying heart-brain dynamics describe this pattern as smooth, sine wave-like heart rate variability that appears when emotions such as appreciation, calm, or compassion are sustained. In that state, the nervous system operates more efficiently, cognitive clarity improves, and the signal of presence becomes steady rather than scattered. This capacity is not reserved for experts in secluded retreats. It is available in ordinary moments to anyone willing to practice noticing, regulating, and refining attention. Most lives cycle between reaction and resistance, not because of personal failure, but because the organism learns to conserve energy by repeating familiar patterns, even when those patterns feel constricting. Shifting the pattern begins with observation without judgment, a small act that interrupts automatic loops and introduces genuine possibility. Pause here without trying to change anything, and let awareness scan the body from the inside out. Notice the temperature at the center of the chest, the texture of breathing, and the background hum of thought, as if listening to weather moving across a landscape. Naming what is present, tightness, openness, speed, stillness, creates a subtle gap, and in that gap the organism remembers how to organize itself. It helps to recognize that coherence rarely disappears in a single dramatic moment. It tends to erode through small unattended choices that favor contraction over breath and reaction over response. If micro moments can unravel a steady state, micro moments can rebuild it, because the same mechanism of repetition that entrenches stress can entrench regulation. This is not about perfection, but about returning, again and again, to a stable signal. Heart-focused research offers a simple biological window into this phenomenon. When heart rhythms are smooth and synchronized with even breathing, sensors detect a coherent electromagnetic pattern around the body that correlates with improved autonomy and cognitive function. In practice, that coherence changes neurochemistry, balances autonomic activity, and shifts perception toward clarity rather than defense. Why does perception matter so much here? Neuroscience describes perception as a controlled hallucination, emphasizing that the brain constantly predicts and updates a model of the world using signals from the body and environment. If internal signals broadcast agitation, the predictive model tilts toward vigilance and scarcity. If signals broadcast steadiness, the model privileges creative interpretation and wider possibility. From quantum mechanics, the metaphor of wave function collapse offers a useful way to talk about choice and observation. Until a measurement is made, a system exists as a distribution of possibilities. Observation selects a specific outcome, reducing the many to one. In daily life, focused attention paired with coherent physiology functions like a clean measurement, stabilizing a preferred outcome rather than fluctuating between competing micro-intentions. This is why affirmations spoken over a racing pulse often feel hollow, and why thinking positive without somatic alignment creates internal friction. A clear signal is not produced by words alone. It emerges when posture, breath, feeling, and focus resonate, and this resonance can be trained. The work is gentle and iterative. Notice the drift, recalibrate, and return. Emotional coherence. Emotional coherence does not require permanent happiness. It requires honest contact with present sensations and a commitment to breathe with them until the nervous system finds rhythm again. Sensors tracking heart rhythms show rounded, sign-like patterns during states such as compassion or appreciation, and jagged, erratic patterns during frustration or resentment. Learning to recognize these inner shifts becomes a practical navigation tool for daily life. The first skill is noticing. The second is pacing breath in a way that the heart can entrain. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out is a simple cadence often used to initiate coherence in real time. The third is introducing a regenerative emotion, gratitude, care, or calm, and letting it fill the chest like warm light. Resonance builds through consistency more than intensity. Brief, frequent returns to coherence create a new baseline, faster than occasional, lengthy attempts that require strain. Think of it as tuning an instrument before and during performance, rather than fixing after it goes far out of tune. Morning priming. The minutes after waking are uniquely malleable because the brain transitions through receptive wave states while habitual stress programs have not fully reactivated. Treating that window as a priming period sets a baseline that influences perception and reactivity for hours. A short practice here pays outsized dividends throughout the day. Practice. Upon waking, bring attention to the heart center and simply watch the breath without altering it for a few cycles. Then gently guide the cadence toward even, unforced inhales and exhales of roughly 5 seconds each, as if the chest itself were breathing. Invite a feeling of appreciation for something textured and specific, sunlight through a window, a kind message, a place of safety, and let that feeling expand through the torso. Within 3 to 5 minutes, heart rhythms typically soften and smooth, indicating a more coherent state that correlates with improved autonomic balance and cognitive steadiness. This is not a placebo or a pretense of positivity. It is a somatic condition change that can be measured with simple sensors. Beginning the day this way reduces the likelihood of automatic survival patterns running the schedule. The field effect of a regulated heart is not confined to the torso, as it can be detected inches to feet beyond the body with sensitive equipment, and this correlates with felt shifts in social interactions. People often respond differently to steady presence than to scattered presence, and that difference begins inside, with entrained rhythms and focused attention. A few minutes each morning is enough to set that tone. Signal and selection. Linking perception and physics is best done with care, but metaphors can be illuminating when used responsibly. In quantum theory, a system evolves across many possibilities until an observation selects a specific definite state. This selection is called wave function collapse. In lived experience, a coherent inner signal allows observation to stick, stabilizing chosen intentions rather than scattering across competing narratives. Neuroscience's predictive brain framework complements this metaphor by showing how the brain's model tightly couples with bodily signals. When the heart-brain axis is incoherent, the model tends to emphasize threat and narrows perception. When coherence rises, the model opens and updates more flexibly. Shaping the signal, therefore, shapes what is noticed and enacted. This is not magical thinking. It is disciplined attention supported by physiology. The promise is not control over events, but influence over internal conditions that determine how events are perceived, interpreted, and responded to. That influence, repeated, compounds. Micro-resets. Most loss of coherence happens between activities, after an email, before a meeting, stepping into a crowded space because transitions invite distraction and speed. Anchoring micro-resets at these thresholds prevents small drifts from becoming long detours. The aim is not to avoid stress, but to shorten the time between trigger and recovery. Micro-reset protocol. Pause for a single breath, soften the shoulders, and feel the weight of the body supported by chair or ground. Lengthen the exhale slightly, allowing the heart to settle toward a smoother rhythm as the autonomic system rebalances. Re-evoke a regenerative feeling for 1 or 2 breaths, then proceed. This 10-20 second practice interrupts stress hormone cascades and often restores enough clarity to choose a response over a reflex. It is invisible and can be practiced in public without drawing attention. Repeated through the day, it trains a fast return to baseline coherence. Focus hygiene. Attention is energy, and fragmented attention leaks energy, even when nothing overtly goes wrong. A simple ethic of single-task presence, work when working, eat when eating, listen when listening, conserves signal integrity. This is not austere minimalism, but a choice to keep the broadcast steady rather than noisy. Notifications, internal rehearsals, and partial listening splinter the field and leave the nervous system slightly elevated all day. Replacing them with intentional focus periods punctuated by brief coherence, breaths rebuild steadiness without requiring more hours. As steadiness grows, opportunities that match the chosen signal are noticed more consistently. Micro-rituals can help. One conscious breath at doorways, a gentle hand-to-heart touch before calls, a 5-breath reset after complex tasks. These anchors feel small but accumulate, shifting the default state toward coherence by repetition. The new pattern becomes easier than the old one. Protective field. Protection here does not mean bracing against life. It means cultivating a coherent field that naturally filters what does not resonate. When heart rhythms are coherent, the surrounding electromagnetic pattern becomes more ordered, and that order correlates with stability in social and environmental exchanges. People often sense and entrain to steadier rhythms without conscious intent, much like tuning forks settling into shared tone. A brief visualization supports this. Breathe evenly and imagine warm, golden luminosity gathering at the center of the chest. On each exhale, let that light expand through and beyond the body as a permeable, intelligent field that welcomes supportive signals and lets incoherence pass without entanglement. Maintain for 3 to 6 breaths and then continue with the next action. This practice is not about hiding, it is about radiating a stable baseline that changes relational dynamics from the inside out. In rooms charged with urgency or conflict, the most coherent presence often sets the tone without a word. That influence begins with physiology, not performance. Guided integrations. A short, seated sequence now helps anchor the principles shared so far. If possible, find stillness for a few minutes and allow attention to rest on breath and heart. Everything that follows is an invitation. There is nothing to get right. Softly close the eyes or lower the gaze. Place a hand on the chest and notice the movement of breath without changing it. Allow posture to lengthen upward and roots to settle downward, as if the spine were a bridge between sky and ground. Begin to smooth the breath to an easy rhythm, approximately 5 counts in, 5 counts out, without strain. Imagine breathing through the heart, drawing in clarity on each inhale and releasing static on each exhale. Invite a memory of appreciation and let its texture spread warmly through the ribs. Sense a gentle field expanding around the body with every out-breath, luminous and permeable, protective without being rigid. Let the field fill the room like soft light until everything inside it feels suffused and steady. Rest for 3 more breaths, trusting the body's intelligence to organize around this signal. Mentally anchor a phrase that resonates, such as steady, clear, coherent, and allow it to echo through the chest. No need for effort. The breath does most of the work. When ready, open the eyes and notice the quality of attention. Science notes. For those who appreciate scientific anchors, several threads inform this approach. First, heart-brain coherence research demonstrates that sustained pro-social emotions correspond with smoother HRV waveforms and improved cognitive emotional integration. Second, predictive processing emphasizes that perception is constructed by the brain's best guesses, refined by bodily cues, hence the controlled hallucination framing. Third, the wave function collapse metaphor from quantum mechanics illustrates how observation selects a single outcome from many possibilities, which, used carefully, offers a language for focused attention shaping experience. These are distinct domains, and metaphors should not be overextended. Still, they can orient practice by giving conceptual handles for lived phenomena like coherence and selection. The body becomes the laboratory where these ideas are tested in felt experience. Daily architecture. A possible day plan integrates priming, practice, and reflection without becoming burdensome. Morning, 3 to 5 minutes of heart-focused breathing with a specific feeling of appreciation to set a coherent baseline. Midday, 2 or 3 micro-resets around transitions, and a brief visualization before high-stakes conversations. Afternoon, single-task sprints of focused work with 60-120-second coherence breaks between blocks. Evening, a short scan of gratitude or learning highlights to bias the predictive model toward growth and safety before sleep. These small practices compound rapidly over weeks. Consistency beats intensity. If time is scarce, keep the morning priming and 1 micro-reset ritual at transitions. Cut everything else, and the signal will still improve. Once steadiness becomes familiar, add layers gradually. Working with challenge. Coherence does not eliminate friction. It changes how friction is metabolized. When a difficult message arrives or a plan falls apart, the nervous system will try to sprint into old patterns because old patterns feel efficient. That is the invitation to pause, lengthen the exhale, and reduce noise before engaging. If speech is needed, speak slowly. If action is required, act from a felt sense of the chest and belly, rather than from mental speed. Clarity gained in a few breaths often prevents hours of cleanup later. Practice here becomes a quiet, reliable form of leadership. Building community field. Shared intention magnifies individual signals, the way synchronized clapping amplifies sound. Groups who practice coherence together often report a palpable sense of stability and kindness that outlasts the session. This can be encouraged by opening or closing meetings with 1 minute of even breathing and a named feeling like gratitude or care. Small, consistent rituals at the group level help the collective nervous system and train towards steadiness. The effect is not mystical. It is social physiology shaped by rhythm, attention, and emotion. Over time, shared practice becomes a supportive container for individual growth. Advanced refinement. For deeper training, biofeedback tools that visualize HRV can help map which thoughts, breaths, and postures generate coherence most reliably. Time spent learning personal resonance frequencies, often around 6 breaths per minute, can accelerate skill acquisition. The goal is not dependence on devices, but clearer interoception. Journaling brief notes after coherence sessions, what was felt, what image helped, what triggered drift, creates a feedback loop that refines practice. Pairing a coherent state with a short visualization of desired outcomes keeps intention crisp without strain. In this way, observation plus alignment becomes a daily craftsmanship. When coherence is hard, on days when steadiness feels far away, shrink the target. 1 breath is a win. 1 shoulder softening is a win. 1 generous interpretation is a win. When nothing else helps, sit with a hand on the heart and simply listen. Let the body lead on difficult days. Thinking harder is rarely the solution. Coherence grows again once the system trusts that pressure is eased. Kindness toward the organism is a coherence practice, not a luxury. Putting it all together, morning priming, 3-5 minutes of heart-focused breathing and appreciation to set the baseline. Micro resets, 10-20 seconds at transitions with a longer exhale and a remembered regenerative feeling. Focus hygiene, single task sprints, brief coherence breaks, minimal notification noise. Protective field, warm, permeable visualization, expanding from the chest before social or demanding contexts. Guided integration, occasional longer sits to deepen interoception and anchor a calm signal. Science notes, heart-brain coherence research, predictive processing, and quantum selection metaphors inform practice. Closing invitation, förstua, first alvi the givetnadsuur, yet kenkratrubel of Ryan stir powder, for the torm at subelbor. Energy follows attention, and attention stabilizes when the heart and breath find each other again. Let practice be light and repeatable rather than heavy and rare, because small returns compound into a new default. In time, steadiness ceases to be something to achieve and becomes the place from which life is lived. A final ritual can help anchor this trajectory. Write the phrase, "I am energy," somewhere visible, or type it into a private note as a reminder to select coherence before action. Each time it is seen, take one even breath and let the chest warm slightly as the signal clarifies. When presence is coherent, perception becomes kinder, creativity widens, and behavior aligns with deeper values without strain. No circumstance is required to be perfect. The work is to keep returning until the return is the way, steady, clear, coherent.